After telling her own mother, "Get out," my stepsister has the nerve to say, "I did nothing wrong." What a disservice to the parents who were quietly looking out for their daughter's best interests. Does she not have a heart? I'll deal with such a devilish woman. Trust me. My name is Penelope. Due to the recent inflation, I've taken up home gardening at the age of 40. Back when I lived in an apartment, the most I could do was grow herbs by the window. Having a house with a backyard is just so wonderful. However, before we moved to this house, our family had its fair share of problems. It happened when I was in my 20s. Mason and I had just celebrated our third wedding anniversary. We were living frugally in a small apartment, hoping to someday buy a house with a yard. One day, out of the blue, my Mel came visiting. She asked if she could stay for just one night, but she looked pale and seemed to have a slight fever. In our panic, we hurried her inside and made her comfortable in the bed. "I'm so sorry for bothering you," she said. "It's okay, Mel." "But why did you come out with a fever?" I asked. "I was kicked out." "Wait, what?" I was speechless, and Mason exclaimed, "By Natalie." Natalie is Mason's younger sister. After my Mel lost her husband, she and Natalie lived together, especially after Mason moved out when we got married. They had always gotten along, so the thought of any trouble between them was surprising. According to mother-in-law, their relationship cracked after Natalie was fired from her job. Natalie had been involved with a married man at her workplace. His wife finally found out about it, and she spread flyers in front of the company and posted about their relationship on the inquiry form of the company's website. She said she's faced various harassments. By the time the wife found out, the two had already split. At this stage, the company didn't demote Natalie or anything. They just turned a blind eye. It's probably the company doesn't want to get involved in any trouble. Had Natalie reflected on her actions, things might have settled down. But Natalie showed no remorse. On the contrary, it rekindled the affair that should have ended. She sent love letters and pictures to the man's house, and even called his wife saying, "I'm the one he truly loves." By now, she's basically a stalker, just not following him around. Women can be scary. Understandably, the man's wife was furious. The man also judged her as a dangerous woman, and together with his wife, approached the company saying, "Either fire her or keep her away from us." The man was not blamed because he was in a higher position and was well respected by others. Perhaps it was because he was told to produce results at work. However, Natalie's job evaluation had not been so good recently, perhaps because she had been too preoccupied with her love life, and Natalie was fired by process of elimination. His wife said, "At first I just wanted you to leave him, but I won't forgive you." And she demanded alimony even though she had no job. It's a quagmire. There's no other way to describe it but as karma. Due to the stress from the whole incident, Natalie started taking out her frustrations on her mother, who was closest to her. At first, it was just occasional cold remarks or ignoring her, nothing major. Mel thought, it can't be helped for now. The truth is that being in an affair with a married man and being fired for it were not the least bit forgivable to my Mel. However, it certainly must be unfair for Natalie that only the man, who also had the affair, remained in the company. Both should have been fired, and perhaps it's understandable that Natalie was upset. In this way, Mel, out of love and compassion, turned a blind eye to the shabby treatment she received from Natalie. Months passed. Despite actively job hunting, Natalie remained unemployed. She had already exhausted her unemployment benefits and had alimony payments looming. Growing increasingly frustrated by her dire situation, Natalie began to lose her temper over trivial matters and started throwing things. At first, she only vented in her room, but eventually, she began throwing things at her mother. To make matters worse, the amount of money in the Mills purse frequently didn't match her memory. At first, the Mill thought she might be mistaken, but after it happened repeatedly, she realized something was amiss. Given the circumstances, it was clear that the only one who could have been taking the money was Natalie. Even a child could figure that out. One day, my mother-in-law said, "You're taking money out of my wallet, aren't you? Stop doing that and get a job." She scolded Natalie. But Natalie exploded. "You never understand my feelings and always force your opinions on me." "I haven't been forcing anything on you. Haven't I been quietly supporting you all this time?" "What? I never asked for your support. Who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? That's why you got fired. You never reflect on your actions, do you?" "Why should I reflect? Love is free, right? It was mutual love. I did nothing wrong." It's that woman's fault. The other woman is the victim, so don't call her that woman. No matter what you say, it's your fault for having a relationship with a married man. You need to accept that. Love. Enough. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Get out. Saying this, Natalie forcefully dragged her mother by her hair to the front door and threw her out. Facing her fallen mother, she said, "Reflect on your actions," and closed the door. Thus, the mill was driven out and walked a couple of subway stops in the scorching summer heat to my house. She seemed to have a slight fever, which was a mild state of heat stroke. I gave her a sports drink to cool down her body, and she gradually recovered her color, which was a relief. You're not thinking of going back to that house, are you? Do you think I should? Mother, it's not safe. It was good you weren't injured this time, but no one knows what Natalie will do next. But I have nowhere else to go. Well, how about living with us? What do you think, Mason? That sounds good. My husband and I exchanged a few words, and my mother-in-law looked incredulous and said, "That's not right. You guys just got married, and an old lady like me is such a nuisance, isn't it?" She stubbornly refused to give her consent, but finally said yes. "Thank you, Penelope, Mason. I'm lucky to have such a good son and daughter." Holding back tears, she added, "I know it's a bit much," and I softly held her hand. "The only problem is, our place is a bit small. Yay, because we chose a cheaper apartment. But we've been saving up for a house, right?" Mason snapped his fingers and said, "That's right, perfect timing. Wait a minute. You always dreamt of living in a house just the two of you, not with three people. It doesn't feel right. Come on, Mill, again with that. It's okay. Isn't it fun when there's more people around?" I pouted playfully, making a funny face. Mill chuckled with an unconvinced look. "Well, but... Oh, let's move in and make it a duplex. Then, you see, we'll both be in one house." At Mason's suggestion, I couldn't help but get excited. Exactly. A duplex. What a brilliant idea for everyone to be happy. Mill agreed with this plan, but she said, "I can't be at ease unless I contribute some money." So we decided to build a new duplex, splitting the cost. By the way, naturally, since Mill was evicted from her house, she didn't have her important documents like her bank book. So, taking advantage of a day when Natalie wasn't around, Mason entered the house with a spare key and retrieved Mill's bank book and seal. Fortunately, it seemed that Natalie, whether out of relief for evicting Mill or just oversight, hadn't tampered with Mill's money. It was fortunate that we were able to get all the bank books, wallets, and personal seals. Some time after that, 3 days after finally moving into our dream duplex, the doorbell rang, and when we checked the monitor, there stood Natalie. My whole family exchanged glances and grinned. She's finally here, just as we expected. We were so hyped that Mason and I played rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go to answer the door. For the record, I won, and we asked Mill to stay back for a bit. Here we go. As soon as I opened the door, Natalie started ranting. "Why did you move right next to me? Oh no, you're yelling at someone who just moved here and who doesn't know what's left and what's right. Who are you?" I pretended to shiver, which made Natalie even angrier. "Don't play dumb. Why did you move here with Mill without even consulting me? Are you trying to harass me? Ick. Keep your voice down. You're disturbing the neighbors. We just bought the place because it was available. It's not harassment, and we're not next door. We're diagonally across. Liar. You've been bad-mouthing me. This morning, some local kids called me a mean old lady and threw mud at me. I never bad-mouthed you. I just stated the facts. When our family discussed building a duplex, the question of where should we move naturally came up. Since Mason and I work, we didn't have the option to move too far away. Despite everything, Mill wanted to be close to her old home since it was under her name. If so, wouldn't everyone's wishes come true if we set up a house near Mill's original home? The plot diagonally across from Mill's original home was available. With pure intentions, we decided to move there. But as the conversation progressed, we all realized that when we introduce ourselves to the neighbors, they'd surely find it odd. After all, why would the original homeowner, Mill, suddenly be living with her son and daughter-in-law in a house diagonally across from her original home? They might wonder, why go to the trouble of building a duplex when you can just go to each other's houses? The neighbors here are quite fond of gossip. They would surely question why. Especially Mrs. Smith next door, who's quite the loud mouth. she'd probably exaggerate the story so much that it'd seem like a tall tale. What if we could use this to our advantage to get Natalie out of that house? And I couldn't help but think that, after all, the spread rumors would make it hard for her to stay in the area. So, every time we were asked by our new neighbors, "Why did you move so close?" we told them everything Natalie did to Mill. Of course, we didn't greet Natalie's house. We didn't even put up a nameplate, trying our best to stay unnoticed. There are many seniors in this area, similar in age to Mill. Whenever they heard the story, some people held mother-in-law's hand and cried, saying, "She's a terrible daughter," while many others said, "So that's it," and expected a muddy story similar to that of Toki. Thanks to this, by the time we finished moving in, neighbors were encouraging us, saying they'd help Mill get her original house back from Natalie. I never expected the kids to go as far as throwing mud, but it seemed the whole community was on our side. Even though it's a suburban area, the community has a close-knit small-town feel. That camaraderie probably played a significant role in this. Just put up with the mud being thrown at you, you can wash it off. Mother-in-law has suffered worse, you know, because of you. But Natalie snapped back at my words. Isn't it the fault of the one who just lets things happen to her? You know, your mother is almost 60 years old, and if you, a woman in her 20s, get really violent with her, she'll be too scared to resist, even if it's just between women. I don't care about that. I lost my job and the world treated me unfairly. It's your fault for not understanding how I feel. It was right after Natalie said this. Smack from behind, the Mill slapped Natalie on the cheek. I know you got fired, but you made someone's wife suffer. That's not unreasonable, it's what you deserved. I watched over you, knowing that one day you would be sorry, that you would get over it, but you. The husband hugged the sobbing Mill, saying, "Don't cry, Mom. It's your fault for cheating, isn't it? If you're going to do it, be prepared for social repercussions. If you can't do that, don't mess with someone else's partner in the first place." I raised my voice at Natalie, and suddenly, there was a sound of clapping hands. Looking around, about 3 neighbors had gathered. In the middle was Mrs. Smith. I saw Natalie entering this house and was worried she might have a weapon, so I called some folks. "Glad to see everything's okay," Mrs. Smith said. "We had let my guard down because of our familial bond, not considering such dangers." I thought of her as a gossip, but Mrs. Smith's kindness was truly unmatched. I was wrong to have such a bad image of her. "Sorry to say this, Natalie. Just the thought of someone who has cheated on someone else makes us feel filthy and uncomfortable, but the thought of having an aggressive kid in the neighborhood who pulls his parents' hair all over the place scares us." Huh. At the neighbor's words, Natalie froze. "What do you mean by filthy? Love is free. You and Mom are both so hard-headed." "Poor girl, you don't even know that. It's just that you see someone who is so careless that you wouldn't care what belongs to others. I'd hate to see a girl like that go near my daughter's husband, for example, and I'd be terrified to have you in the neighborhood. You're a disaster just by being here." I remembered Mrs. Smith had a daughter around Natalie's age who was married and living with her. I could understand not wanting someone like Natalie, with a history of infidelity, around. "I hate to say it, but could you leave? Everyone's uncomfortable with you here," Mrs. Smith said. Upon hearing that, the color drained from Natalie's face. "Why? I was the one who had my boyfriend taken away. Does being married make you that much better?" Natalie collapsed on the spot, and my husband grabbed her arm, glaring. "As a man, let me tell you something. You may say you lost your lover, but his wife lost her husband to you. But the man chose her in the end. You didn't lose to the institution of marriage, you lost to her as a woman. You should have realized that by now, you idiot." Natalie cried out, "What was I lacking?" "That's what," the husband replied. "Your attitude," said the Mill. I added, "Maybe your naivety." He probably saw her as just a fling from the start. Otherwise, he would have left his wife and approached Natalie from the beginning. Natalie's failure to see such an obvious thing was her fault, and there was nothing to defend. Everyone looked coldly at her, and after sobbing for a while, Natalie said, "I'll leave." It seemed she realized she had no place here. Later on, Natalie passed an interview she had taken shortly before this incident, and although she had initially planned to commute from her parents' home, she was suddenly moved to live in the company's employee dormitory at her workplace. However, by the time she reached her 3rd year of employment, she was so harsh on a new recruit that the newbie ended up seeing a psychiatrist, leading to Natalie receiving a demotion. Given Natalie's personality, It's easy to imagine that it was more of her yelling out of raw emotion than actual guidance. Unhappy with the decision, Natalie argued back at the company. Well, more like she shouted obscenities and ended up getting fired yet again. I think it's quite a talent to not learn from being fired at your previous job. Narmi, who had also been evicted from the company dormitory, bowed down to us and asked to live at my in-laws' house, but my Mill refused to do so. You won't grow unless you face hardships. That's what she apparently said. Until then, despite our differences, Natalie and us had some contact, but from that moment, we've been estranged. It's to rid her of her dependencies. On the other hand, for us, ever since we decided to move into a duplex, our life has been nothing short of amazing. For starters, when building our house, the contractor turned out to be the child of Mill's friend, someone she knew since childhood, so we got a significant discount. Thanks to that, we could upgrade our house, leading to us having a larger bathroom than planned, and installing accessible facilities like handrails in the bathroom. Well, that might be a common story everywhere. But the legend of our awesome life doesn't stop there. Right before moving, my husband got a promotion. Apparently, a new branch of his company was opening near our new place, and they were looking for a manager. Just as we reported our move to the company, they approached Mason with the offer. Mason's company has a strong seniority system, and even though he works hard, he tends not to be appreciated much while he is still young, so he is overjoyed that his efforts have finally been rewarded, and he was over the moon. Mill is also having the time of her life. Having reclaimed her own home, Mill thought, I don't need two homes. So, she renovated the family home a bit and opened up a sandwich shop. It's perfect for a workplace lunch or for kids' breakfast, and it's becoming quite popular in the neighborhood. At first, I wondered, will selling just sandwiches be successful? But sandwiches seem to be in vogue right now, and with unique fillings not found in typical stores, and Mill's lovely personality, it's a hit. While sandwiches might not make her rich, the shop has become a place for community engagement, and Mill seems to have made many new friends. I think Mill's retirement years are turning out to be much livelier and happier than when she lived with Natalie. As for me, about a year after moving into the duplex, I discovered I was pregnant. Since then, I've been blessed with kids one after the other, and now I'm a mother of 4. My eldest daughter and second daughter help Mill, who has trouble with her legs, and have become the faces of the sandwich shop. My eldest son and third daughter are so mischievous that I'm afraid they might wreck the sandwich shop, so for now, I try to keep them away as much as possible. Once, the walls of our newly built house were colorfully decorated with their crayon art. Oh dear. I wish they'd mellow out a bit sooner. Even with all this, they're all adorable and good kids. This Mother's Day, they said, it's not fair for just Mom, and for some reason, they gave presents to both Mason and Mill as well. I'm glad they're growing up to be kind kids. Our new house was built lavishly and at a great price. We reclaimed the family home as planned. Mill looks happy, Mason got promoted, and the kids are growing up healthy and happy every day. There's nothing happier than having a family. I'm sure this happiness is something Natalie, who tried to destroy someone else's family, will never understand. In this lively and warm home, I'll keep doing my best to make it a place where everyone can feel healed and at peace.